Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence, and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome, guys. Enjoy the show. Brandee, welcome to the podcast.
So great to be here, Guy.
Now, I ask everyone on the show, if a complete stranger stopped you on the street and asked you what you did for a living these days, what would you say?
Oh my gosh. I would say that I wear a lot of different hats. I'm helping to awaken the giants. That's what I'm doing. So, through our center, Rythmia, these amazing people are coming to have healings and awakenings, and then to fall into alignment with what they're here to do, how to live, love, and serve more. So I'm just supporting that.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm no doubt that would make one hell of a conversation if somebody was hearing that for the first time. And I'm certainly intrigued as well today. Now, when we spoke last time, it was very clear to me that you were somebody that kind of goes all in. You follow your heart and you just seem to be living life from those terms these days, which takes a tremendous amount of courage. I think we all love the idea of doing it, but many of us can seriously have doubts, fears, and struggles, and I've no doubt you're any different either, but you're clearly living it. So how did you get to that point? Like, have you always been that
way? Living from the heart, I think for me, it was, it naturally happened from my childhood. I came from a really highly traumatic childhood. When I was 6 years old, my dad committed suicide in the house that I was in, and I walked into the room. Shortly after, my mother did her best to raise us, but she ended up a meth addict. So most of my childhood, I was living with a mother addicted to meth and in a house where people were doing drugs regularly, and it was pretty crazy. And so I think because I at that time I didn't have the protection that I wanted and the love that I wanted, I think I naturally became the opposite and what I wished I would have had. So it expanded my heart, and I feel that it's always been my way of trying to, I give all of what I didn't get, to the people in my life, to my child, to my family, to my friends. It's really important to me. And so I think sometimes our parents are so amazing, like whatever cards we were dealt, we have the opportunity to either be just like them or to the opportunity is to learn the lessons and to not be like them, when it's someone who's living a difficult life.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. I had no idea. Thank you for sharing. How does one then begin to flourish and follow their heart then? Because I think, if you're in those circumstances, it could possibly go either way. I'm imagining as you're growing up where we could become, more closed off to the world as opposed to open.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was super highly traumatized from it all. And when I was 11 years old, my mom went to prison. And my grandparents, who were the complete opposite of my parents, took my sister and I and raised us. And they're like my angels in my life. They're the complete opposite. It was like going from like this crazy rock star lifestyle, rock star burnout lifestyle, to Leave It to Beaver 1950s, where my grandparents never told a lie, never used a cuss word, like the complete opposite. And they are, I think when the beauty of our elders is they step into this space of unconditional love, and to be able to be raised by that, it had a huge impact on my heart and how I live. So yeah. I'm super grateful for that. Yeah. Because it could have went really, really wrong. Yeah.
Incredible. So let's fast forward a little bit. That definitely gives me some idea now for sure. And you set up Rythmia, I think it was 5 years ago. Am I correct in saying that? 4 years, 5 years?
Right.
So I'm really keen to
about 5 years.
Okay, I'm really keen to get into what led you to that too. But let's maybe touch on what you would say Rythmia is first, and then let's get into a backstory of how it came about.
Mm-hmm. So Rythmia is a center. It's a life transformation program, a 7-day program where we bring the most breakthrough modalities for healing and transformation into a program. You come, you set an intention for the week, and you leave with a miracle. Most of the people who come report, 95% of the people who come self-report that they had a life-changing miracle occur before they left.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So what was the basis of you going to Costa Rica and starting Rythmia? So where were you at? I believe you worked in marketing before that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I owned a marketing and branding company for over 10 or 11 years. And, I always loved life transformation work. I feel like being an entrepreneur, owning your own business. Also, I was a single mom. So, not only that, I mean, with my whole history, I was a hot mess and I was trying to unravel myself. So life transformation and self-development work and spirituality, I found that it was like my ticket to freedom. And I became like the self-help junkie. I read 1,000 books and did every program I could get my hands on, every workshop. And it was amazing. I was like constantly changing and evolving. But the thing is that, my life looked like I had it all together, like, wow, she came from this childhood and I have a successful business and it looked like I was rocking it. But if you came closer and you looked in, for instance, to maybe one of my boyfriends, then you would see that I had some serious dysfunction going on. So, and also, I was working on the side of my business. Like I had this vision to create a center in Costa Rica to create my own life transformation program. I was working with men that were transitioning from prison and created, a program that incorporated meditation, life transformation skills, and I called it the Sleeping Giants Project. And, so that was one part of this project, but the vision was, I said, how could I be used, in this time where the earth is completely falling apart? I would watch documentary films and just to remind myself of like what's going on. I'm living in LA and I'm in this total bubble, but I always would just, when I start feeling too comfortable or just too complacent with my life and everything, I will pop in a film and just watch what's really going down. And then it just turns me on fire. And I'm like, okay, I can't just do marketing. I need to do something that's going to make an impact here. I need to be used. And, so that's really when this whole vision started coming through about creating this center in Costa Rica, where if we took light workers and some of the most powerful people in the world and woke them up. Back then, I didn't know what the plant medicine was. I thought it was going to be, progressive healing modalities like breath work. I was into Kriya yoga with, self-realization fellowship in Yogananda and sound healing. And actually seeing though that like the life transformation programs where I was going through the mind were really not getting to some of my core issues that were creating a lot of chaos in my life and holding me back from like living in my greater purpose. And so I knew that this center had to be progressive quantum healing modalities, and so I started on this vision and I still had my company on the side. And I kept thinking, okay, well, I'm going to fund this whole vision when I build this company out. And thankfully, the universe had another plan for me because my plan was going to take too long. So my business partner and I had a fight, and overnight, I lost everything that I had built. And I had a choice to like go to fight it in court, for a few years. And I decided to just let it all go and just to like step into this real passion that I had for this vision. And it was scary because it was like, okay, this is what I know. This is how I know how to money. This is what's safe. And this is the unknown. And I stepped into the unknown, and I literally spoke it out loud. I said to Spirit, I want to be used on one of the biggest movements on the planet. I was so fed up with waking up every day and creating like stuff that just was meaningless, you know, like I made a DJ toy product, flow rider, and makeup products and all this stuff. And it was great, but it just wasn't serving. And so, when I set that intention and when I spoke it out loud, and when I finally surrendered to not having to be the one in control. And this is a big key. It was like my whole life. I mean, I came from survival. I came from like, okay, I have a vision. I'm going to force it to happen. And, you know, I was able to manifest, you know, these amazing things. But when it comes to manifesting my calling and what my assignment is, it can't be manifested from the masquerade that I was used to manifesting. It had to also come from the feminine, where, you know, there's a vision that's greater than anything that I could possibly imagine. You know, yes, I was definitely channeling and downloading like parts of it, but I didn't know what plant medicine was. So I had to really surrender to whatever this was and just trust for the first time in my life. And when I did, it was miraculous what happened. I got called by these shamans in Costa Rica who had an ayahuasca center. And they said, you know, we need help marketing ayahuasca. I'm like, what is this? So I fly out. I get to this amazing resort where it's like waterfall. They have their own waterfall on the property, and it just looks like the Garden of Eden. It's beautiful, fruit trees. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this vision is manifesting, you know? And I was like, okay, this sounds amazing what you guys are doing. I hear that there's miraculous healings, but for me, it still sounded like a drug. And for my background coming from my mother, I was like, I didn't even smoke pot. I wasn't into it. So I thought, you know, well, whatever this drug is that they're doing, it sounds great. Like they're healing people. I'm down with it. And then honor and use this land and create my center, you know? So I went back home, and then the synchronicities started happening crazy. I started getting invited every single week for a month to a plant medicine ceremony.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, hell no, I'm not doing this. Right? And you know, that's like when the synchronicities start showing up like crazy, you know, you're on, but I was like, this is not what I want to be on to, you know? So finally, like the fourth person in a month invites me, because I was doing consulting for her company. She said, every year we do a visioning ceremony. Can you come? And I was like kind of cornered. But this woman is amazing, 70 years old, and told me she's been doing this plant medicine for 30 years.
Wow.
So she was the person that got me to say yes. And when I got to the ceremony, and when I was able to understand the difference between a drug and plant medicine, something that you're taking to escape yourself, and the plant medicine is something you're taking to lift the veil and to be able to, you know, speak with your higher self, heal yourself. So once I understood what I was doing, I was down for it, and I did it. And this was like a big moment in my life that totally changed the game for me. It was like, for the first time, I was able to hear my inner voice clearly. I set 2 intentions. I said, number 1, what is my life purpose? And number 2, why do I keep attracting the same guy over and over with a different face, you know? And and the medicine, like, it was amazing. It told me, when it kicked in, this voice spoke to me and said, overcompensating mother is what you are. And I was like, wow. And then it showed me each relationship that I had ever been with and their relationship with their mother. And that each one of these men were angry or felt betrayed or felt like their mother didn't love them in some way. And then here I am the overcompensating mother. I'm like, I will take you, son, and I will be the mother that I never had for me to you, like in this really dysfunctional, crazy ass way. And it was just really very codependent. And it showed me that this pattern was actually robbing me of my light, and that I would basically get involved with these men that didn't really want to be awake and want to do the work. And then I would get in a situation like with my mom, like, wake up, and trying to save them. And, so it showed me this whole story. And I had done a lot of life transformation programs. I understood some plant medicine explained this, and then said that now, with this awareness, everything is going to change. And then it showed me this vision of the Sleeping Giants Project and Costa Rica. And it said, this is all happening, you're being perfectly guided, and showed me the whole story of the plants and, the pharmaceutical industry, and, that this is one of the biggest movements on the planet. And what was amazing was after that ceremony, 2 weeks later, I was introduced to Brandee Powell, who's my now husband. And it was amazing because the guy who introduced us heard that I had in Costa Rica, and was like, oh, you guys got to meet up. And when we met up, Gerard was partnered with my Reverend Michael Quith from Agape. And we knew that we had to do this together. So we all went to Costa Rica and found the space, and everything in the business was really guided by plant medicine. And it was just an amazing journey, creating it all and being guided, from our higher self, and having access to that through the plant medicine.
Yeah. Wow. And that's phenomenal. And I just didn't want to interrupt anything that you were saying then, because I'm just engrossed, because I can so relate.
I know it's kind of a long story. So.
No, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's amazing, because there's so many acts of courage that you've had to undergo just to overcome a part of yourself. And we're so terrified at looking at quite often, and we continue to just continue our loops, if you like, that are actually self-sabotaging over the years, and we don't even realize we're doing them. And I remember doing my first ayahuasca ceremony with the plant medicine about 5 years ago, and I was being called to do it, but I was absolutely terrified. I just hadn't, because I was like, I'm like you, I never do drugs. I had this, I had this whole battle thing going on, but there was a greater pull for me to do it. And I was so scared before I actually drank. I remember my body just actually wanting to collapse. Like, it was just fear had gripped me, but I still went through with it somehow. And the moment I drank the medicine was the ultimate, for me, it was the first time in my life that I'd surrendered fully to anything, because I was in, and I just let go and go, okay, I'm all in. I trust you. Let's see what happens. And it was an amazing experience. And I always tell people it was like pulling a splinter out of my soul. I don't know how else to have described that. So I wanted to share that with you, because everything you said then was...
I love that description. I love the description, pulling a splinter out of your soul. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And being able to, we're so disconnected from ourselves, from the way that we've been programmed, from living in this super paced society, and just being disconnected from nature has made us so disconnected from hearing that inner voice, that the plant medicine during this crisis time that we're at in the planet, it's like, it makes sense why it's coming in fast and furious to wake us up and to help us to just connect with the part of us that's so lost and so disconnected.
Yeah, incredible. So you've taken this to Rythmia. And then you're literally, and like all businesses, there's still you got to just trust it and just see what happens to a degree. You put your energy into something and then let it unfold. So people then started coming down from the US to come to the retreat, and it just started to grow from there. Is that sort of the way it went?
Well, it was a long, crazy process to create this. And my husband, he's like one of the hardest working people I've ever seen. He's like a robot machine, but, it's just been a constant the evolution, and everybody, like all of the staff and everybody's just been working really hard to make it all happen. It's like running a hotel or a resort is one crazy mission on its own, and then you add plant medicine to it, and it adds a whole nother dimension to the whole thing. So it's been quite a ride creating it, but what's amazing is what's happening. Like 95% of the people that come through have a life miracle. And what was really amazing was just this whole process of creating the program. Like, my husband is like, what's amazing about Jerry is that he's never, before his transformation, he had never like read, much about spirituality or, the ancient mystery schools or anything like this. And so we'd be in ceremony, and this whole vision would come through of what the program's going to be. And I would hear him in his like Pennsylvania accent, like channeling this wisdom, this ancient wisdom from like the mystery schools of Egypt. And it would be like stuff that I knew was right point, like the whole process in Rythmia of, seeing who you've become, healing your heart, and merging with your soul. Like this came directly from the plants through him. And it's just miraculous how it's all been guided by these plants. And, we're just working for the plants, really.
How do you find, where are people generally at when they come to your retreat? Like, most people waiting till the pain is so great, they're just looking for something, or another question, I guess, would be as well then, do we need to wait to that point before we have to create that change? Like that deep-rooted change?
I feel like a lot of times, because, when we're comfortable is not a time when we're really like pushing ourselves, so a lot of times the people who are coming to Rythmia are going through a transition. Something is not working in their lives, and it's gotten to a point where they're willing to take the red pill and do the crazy, jump into the unknown, let go of control, everything that we do not want to do, not know what's about to happen in the future, right? These are all things that no human being is comfortable with. But, when you get to that point in your life when something is really at a point where you can't stand it anymore, that's the type of person that's willing to do what we do with the medicine. Because I don't know, like otherwise I'm like, I look around in the room, I'm always like so in awe of each of the people in there. I'm like, wow, man, you guys are soldiers, you guys are warriors. Like, we're all taking this, what is going to happen. But what I say is that I'm willing to roll the dice, and I'm willing to possibly have a very difficult night for a lifetime of freedom.
Huh. Yeah. And how do you find they end up integrating back in afterwards? Because they got to fly back to the US. You come to, I was in Costa Rica last Christmas, and it's this stunning country. It's beautiful. And, you kind of leave everything behind and you go in there, and then you have an experience like that. For me, one of my greatest fears was, because you're going into the unknown, am I going to lose who I am, my identity? What the hell? Am I just going to quit my job tomorrow? There's all these fears and things that are just mulling a million reasons not to do it right as well. So how do you find where people go after they've sort of come through and then go back to integrate it all?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can't lose anything that was serving you, so the plant medicine is so intelligent, and anything that you lose is something that's not in alignment with your higher self, your higher calling, and your future self, which is only the highest order of good. So the universe is always conspiring, and the medicine is always conspiring to support you in letting go and releasing the things that don't serve you anymore. And then when it's time to come back home, this is where the real work starts, because 50% of the healing happens with the plant. right? So you have a healing, you have an awareness, energetically, a space is now cleared for you to create a new possibility. But I've seen people repeat the same thing over and over and keep drinking medicine because they don't take what they saw and put it into action. And that's the difference of somebody who's going to have this awakening, having, and then be able to keep it, against somebody who possibly wasn't ready yet. And maybe, you know, everybody has a different path. That's the thing. You know, sometimes you can have a realization, but you're not ready to fully embody that realization. Because when you think about it, we say that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, the spirit part of ourselves, the consciousness, is fluid. It's light. The part that's having the experience in the physical body is dense. And this is like what has gone through this whole lifetime of programming. You know, the physical body actually takes longer to heal. And, you know, so when you're unraveling yourself through life transformation, you also have to be gentle with yourself, understanding that you're going through a process, that you're not just going to necessarily, sometimes people are ready. Sometimes people have gone through enough preparation to where they could just have this life-changing miracle. I was blind, I could see again. I was this way, tomorrow it's over. Sometimes that's the case, but more of the time it's you awareness, you get this opening, and then it's like a process. Now you do the work. You go in, and the energy of the medicine is so amazing. It stays in your system, and that spirit is working with you to actually integrate this in your real life. So your real life starts to reflect opportunities for you to now embody the experience, the healing, the awareness that you had on the medicine. And that's where the real work starts. You know, life starts to give you all of these opportunities, and it's the things, it's when you're having the challenges and when you're having the moments that are really hard, it's like, okay, I'm creating this whole experience, and why am I creating it? What am I being called to be out of this? Because if you're able to get the lesson, shift the lesson, or embody whatever it is that's trying to come through, you can circumstances happening in your movie. So it's really, you know, going home is where the work starts. And it's a question of, you know, are you going to start lifting the weights and step into this new future self, this new you? Or do you need to just, you know, maybe go through more life lessons, hard lessons? The great thing is you can't lose either way, right? Because either, you know, if you're not ready to start lifting weights and do the workout to step into what's trying to come into you, then life's going to be really great at just throwing you a rock, then throwing you a big boulder, and then throwing you a brick, and then it's going to give you a brick wall until you wake up. So either way, you win.
Yeah, totally, man. I even with with what I teach here in Australia with Let It In, I always say the true meditation is what you do with your eyes open during the day, and being literally consciously aware to those moments, because we always have an opportunity to show up, right, and step into our future self of who we want to be and who we want to become. And,
totally.
And that's courage. And there's moments we can be courageous every day, really, and even in the small things, right? And the things that are continually pulling us back into our old selves that we want to change. And yeah, beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. The question I wanted to ask you that came through listening to then, do you think then we all have a purpose? Because quite often we can kind of struggle to find ourselves and a direction and what we want to do, and we can use that to sort of almost like hold us from ever taking action in the first place to create the change. What are your thoughts on that, Brandee?
I believe that each and every one of us were perfectly designed with gifts and a mission that only we can uniquely show and serve with our uniqueness in ourselves. And I feel that, you know, working with these, you know, quantum healing modalities, whether it's plant medicine or breath work or meditation, whatever it is, to undo the programming that has, you know, basically fogged our glasses. We're wearing all these different glasses of thinking, you know, of who we think we are and what we think we want and what we think, you know, life is about. And the more that we connect with our soul, with our true self, right? The more that we understand what is my ego, this persona that was created, and then what is my true authentic soul self. And the more that the soul self is able to shine through, we start to align with our calling and our gifts and our purpose more and more and more. And I don't think it's like a linear thing, like one thing. It's like there's all, you know, there's different ways that we can live more and love more and serve more. And it's always evolving. But yes, I think everybody has generally a purpose and a reason that we came in here to support what's happening on the planet right now, because we're in one of the most exciting times in human history.
Totally.
We are in a love revolution. This is what's happening. And the frequency of love and light is here, and it's on Earth. And 2012, it happened. We won, love won. And now it's a question of waking everybody up and getting everybody aligned with that light and love that's already here. Because all of the inventions, all of the solutions to every single problem that the planet is facing is within each and every one of us. So the greatest way that we can serve is by us waking up in ourselves. That's it. Like a lot of times we get so fixated on this big grandiose story that I need to be the savior of planet Earth. But really the most important thing is for us to just be awake and to be aligned with our soul. And for every moment to moment that we can allow ourselves to be in that love frequency, is the greatest way that we could serve. And the rest unfolds. The rest of it takes care of itself. But the most important thing that we have to do is get aligned with our soul. And this is what we're doing at Rythmia.
Yeah, beautiful. It's almost I love the analogy of the fog, and it's like you got glasses and they're all fogged up, and and we often get so fixated on who do I need to be, but if we actually just focus on the fog, that are the patterns and the things that are holding us back, then the path starts to open up anyway, and then we end up finding our soul's calling, our purpose. You know, that's what I've been finding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, and this is the first process in Rythmia, is to ask, show me who I've become. And there's ways that you could do this, you know, even in your everyday life. You know, the more that you pay attention to, what are you judging? Who are you judging? Because that is an indicator of what's going on inside of you. Even if you're able to look at that person and think, you know, well, I'm not doing that. Well, yes, you are in some way. Maybe not in the exact way that that person is doing that. You know, like maybe you're judging a thief. Okay, well, where are you robbing your own life? Right? There's all the things that we are noticing are really just indicators of what's going on inside of ourselves. And, you know, the more that you align with the truth of who you really are, the less judgments that you have on yourself, on other people. Another thing is asking people who are close to you for the truth, because you've got your perception of who you are. But then, you know, when there's a conversation when you're not there with your family or with your best friends, and it's not like necessarily they're talking shit, but, you know, there's another version that other people are able to see that maybe they're not giving you. And so the more that you're open to constructive criticism, you know, the closer that you could get to your truth. And this is the key. And this is why the plant medicine is so amazing, because we're able to like set the ego aside and really get clear on that part that we can't see in ourselves.
Yeah, it's like a tough parent, isn't it? It's like, I'm going to give you the truth, you know, and you look at that, because we're interesting as human beings, because we constantly so often want to avoid hearing what we actually need to hear, and just by that act alone, it can keep us suspended for years in a certain paradigm, in a certain way.
Totally
Blows my mind.
Yeah.
What practices do you do daily then now to, you know, just stay on top of it and maintain? Because we can all get comfortable, right, and slip If
Absolutely. All the time. Like it is a battle every day to not slip into my comfort zones and my patterns and my habits. And one of my favorite things that I do is my morning ritual. And I think the way that you set up your morning really sets up your day. But as soon as I wake up, I love when I'm in that like kind of hypnosis state, you know, where you're in the consciousness, and you know, our brains are computer programs. Our subconscious mind is incredible what it's doing and how it's creating our whole lives. It's when we start to actually command our subconscious mind and become the creators of our reality, where we don't just live by default, where whatever's been programmed into us, we're just constantly living out of fear of that trauma or whatever it is that we're trying to avoid from happening. So we actually end up projecting that out into the future and living it right now. And so when you become the conscious creator, one of the greatest ways is in the morning when you're in that state of hypnosis. And you can literally go into your subconscious mind just like you would if you were being hypnotized, and you can make commands to it. And you can say, I'm enough. I'm enough. Because so much of what we're, the false self and this whole ego is just, it's all just trying to be enough, you know? And so, you know, constantly reaffirming this to your brain actually creates neural pathways. And the more that you can put these positive affirmations about how your day is going to go, affirmations about things that you want to manifest, you can just program it into your system and start your day with that. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Beautiful. Me too. I do something very similar. Absolutely. And it becomes like brushing your teeth. And the moment you miss a day or two, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how much of an impact it's having on me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions, Brandee, that I ask everyone on the show. And I'd love to hear your answers or see what comes. But what's one of your low points in your life you've had, but later in life became a blessing?
I would say my childhood was a low point. And when I started to really build a relationship, you know, my mother to this day, she lives in a meth house. And so, you know, she's become schizophrenic, and you know, we communicate, and I love her. I communicate when I can, but really my relationship has just been built between my story with her and reframing it and doing all of this work to really understand what a perfect mother she was and is for me. She taught me problem solving, my entrepreneur skills, like my ability to be self-reliant, my desire to, you know, really seek God and look behind the scenes into the mysteries of this came from my mother and my father. All of this, I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing today without them being exactly the way that they were. And one time I did a plant medicine ceremony, and it was Mother's Day in Costa Rica, and she came in, and I was just in awe of what an amazing mother she is, because it was like she was telling me, like, we had this contract. I took this role on so that you could do this. And that really just shifted my, you know, I've always had a heart for her, but I was like, oh my God, what an amazing mother you are to on that contract so I can do this, you know? So I think it's all about rewriting the story of whatever it is, you know, that we haven't forgiven, or any place where we feel victimized. It's really going into that story and turning it around and seeing what did we get out of this, and why did it happen? Because it's always happening for love.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's really hard sometimes, isn't it, when it's going on, to try and look for the lesson, especially with something like that. But to come to that realization is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. If you could have dinner with anyone tonight from any time frame, anywhere in the world, who would it be and why?
Wow. If I could have dinner, let's think here, from any time frame,
Absolutely.
I would say one of the people I would love to meet is Mohammed Yunus. Have you heard of Mohammed Yunus?
No, I haven't.
So I flew out to Sundance Film Festivals one year because I saw that he was speaking on a panel. But he is amazing. Like, he's been such an inspiration to me. He completely transformed the Bangladesh from being third world status by creating microlending. So he created this, just starting with some of the people that he knew. He was giving small loans, and actually he realized that women were the ones that were returning 100% return on investment. Men that he was giving the loans to, a lot of them were defaulting and using them for prostitution, alcohol. So when he built his foundation, he actually funds women businesses with microloans, and it's gone all over the world. So he's such an inspiration to me.
Wow, beautiful. That'd be a great conversation.
Yeah.
What's one thing?
Yeah.
What's one thing about yourself most people wouldn't know?
One thing about myself that people wouldn't know? Good question. What would they not know? I don't know. I'm trying to think.
You live too. You live.
Okay, guide me in somewhere.
Yeah.
Guide me somewhere.
No, it's beautiful. It's a tricky question. It's a tricky question. And last thing I want to ask you is there anything you'd like to leave for our listeners to ponder on today with everything that we've covered?
Yes. I would say that if you're going through a problem, or if there's something that's not working in your life, to ask yourself, what am I being called to from this situation? And to remind yourself that you are the creator of your reality, no matter what it looks like. No matter what it looks like. If it looks like a victim story, it's not true. And if you could step back and just ask yourself, why could this be happening in my life? And what am I being called to be in my higher self in this situation?
Beautiful. Beautiful. And for everyone listening to this wants to learn more about your awesome retreat in Costa Rica, where's the best place to send them?
Yeah, Rythmia.com. And also for women, I do a women's program called Majesty. So if you're interested in coming to an all women's retreat, check it Rythmia.com.
Wow. I think my wife will be sold on that already, Brandee. Beautiful. Well, look, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, and really thank you for everything you do. It's wonderful, and I love that conversation, and no doubt everyone listening to this will certainly be inspired and maybe think.
Me too. It was so great. And I love your shirt. Trust me, I know what I'm doing, the universe. Perfect. Perfect to end our conversation.
I try to remind myself every day. Absolutely.
I love that shirt.
Thank you, Brandee.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Guy, for having me. It was really great.
Beautiful. Thank you.